tonight. CBS News carried more of Katie Couric's interview with Palin. One exchange involved Supreme Court cases, including Roe versus Wade. You need to take a look at this.
Why, in your view, is Roe v. Wade a bad decision?
I think it should be a state's issue, not federal government mandating yes or no on such an important issue. I'm in that sense a federalist, where I believe that states should have more say in the laws of their lands in individual areas. Now, foundationally also, though, it's no secret that I'm pro-life, that I believe that a culture of life is very important for this country, and personally that's what I would like to see further embraced by America.
Do you think there's an inherent right to privacy in the Constitution?
I do. Yeah,
That's
I do.
the cornerstone of Roe versus Wade.
I do, and I believe that individual states can best handle what the people within the different constituencies in the 50 states would like to see their will ushered in an issue like that.
What other Supreme Court decisions do you disagree with?
Well, let's see. There's, of course, in the great history of America, there have been rulings that there's never going to be absolute consensus by every American, and there are those issues, again, like Roe v. Wade, where I believe are best held on a state level and addressed there. So, you know, going through the history of America, there would be others, but
can you think of any?
Well, I would think of any, again, that could best be dealt with on a more local level. Maybe I would take issue with, but you know, as a mayor and then as a governor and even as a vice president, if I'm so privileged to serve, wouldn't be in a position of changing those things, but in supporting the law of the land as it reads today.
Breaking it down for us tonight, we've got CNN senior political analyst Gloria Borger from Washington, Joe Klein, political columnist for Time Magazine, here with me in New York, and we should mention its latest issue is featuring the financial crisis. Also CNN contributor and Republican strategist Ed Rollins, former chairman of Mike Huckabee's presidential campaign. Welcome, everybody. Ed, let me start with you. In fairness, probably most people can't name a Supreme Court case, but most people are not campaigning to be vice president.
Right.
How bad is it?
Well, this series of interviews has been terrible for him. I mean, obviously, there's one a night, and I think to a certain extent, you know, the problem is the country has only had 3 impressions of her. One when she was announced, the second was a great acceptance speech, and then these little interviews that have been big interviews that have come over the last couple of weeks. Tomorrow night, obviously, she's got to hit a home run to get back in this game. And I think the expectations are low, and my sense is she's a big personality, and she needs to get out and prove to people that she knows a lot about a lot of subjects.
Joe, what did you make of it?
Well, even more shocking than not being able to cite another Supreme Court case was the fact that she was opposed to Roe v. Wade, but she was in favor of the right to privacy, which was the essential rationale for passing Roe v. Wade. So
if she's left a lot of us sort of going, huh?
Yeah, I mean, if she says she's a Federalist, she would get drummed out of the Federalist Society, the conservative legal group, just on the basis of that answer. I mean, this is embarrassing. This is really, really embarrassing, and it's hurting the McCain ticket very badly, I think.
Gloria?
You know, and when you consider that the issue of judges is so important to conservatives around this country, just who would you put on the Supreme Court? Why do you think the Supreme Court needs to change? I mean, that's what makes this answer so much more devastating, because while you can't expect her to name a particular Supreme Court case, although I would argue you might, there are issues like affirmative action, for example, issues taken regarding Guantanamo and the war on terror. John McCain has been very, very vocal on those. Campaign finance reform, part of it challenged by the Supreme Court. John McCain is a big campaign finance reform guy. So even in terms of what John McCain believes and what conservatives believe, I think this is a real problem.
Let me just talk you through how she is countering this, the analysis you're hearing right now. She's been making the rounds on conservative talk radio, and she told Hugh Hewitt, we don't have that interview right now, but I'll quote it for you. She says, quote, this is Palin, "It's time that normal Joe six-pack American is finally represented in the position of vice presidency. I think that's kind of taken some people off guard. They're out of sorts. They're ticked off about it. But it's motivation for John McCain and I to work much harder to make sure our ticket is victorious. We put government back on the side of people of Joe Sixpack like me.
You know, this
okay, before you mock,
I'm going to give you a historical reference.
There are a lot of Joe Sixpacks out there who might resonate, who might feel like this resonates.
Well, I'll answer that. There are a lot of Joe Sixpacks out there who are scared to death about the economy right now and, are shaking in their boots that this woman might, is going to be a heartbeat away from the president. But this reminds me of Senator Roman Ruska from Nebraska, who during the Nixon administration...
Ed is laughing. Go ahead.
It's only because we're the only two that are old enough to
remember this.
No, but Nixon, I think it was Judge Carswell he appointed to the Supreme Court, didn't make it. He was a dunce. And Roman Ruska said, it's time that we had some mediocrity on the Supreme Court. I mean, this is nonsense.
Well, fortunately, the Senate has many that are representing mediocrity today. So
they certainly do. But I don't think you want it in the White House.
So, Gloria, what can Ed mentioned this earlier, that look, she did have a moment when she gave that acceptance speech. How does she regain that moment, if you will, if you're her strategist or you're her advisor? Going into tomorrow night?
Well, first of all, and I think this is very difficult, she's got to get her self-confidence back. She's got to figure out who she is again. And I think what they've got to do during this debate is keep her on the general themes. I mean, what she's essentially saying is, I'm an outsider, that's good for America, I'm a breath of fresh air. And she's got to sort of get to that over and over and over again. And on the generalities, if she can keep it to the generalities, then she might do very well. But if it gets really specific in that debate, and if Joe Biden behaves himself, then it's going to be a problem.